All right, drawing and painting, we're going to go over what your next assignment is going to be. So you started with researching a little bit, you've practiced a little bit with the black paper and the supplies you have. Now you're going to create a project plan. So here's just some images from my black paper practice. I practiced the chalk pastel, colored pencil, and crayon because I forgot my old pastels at school. Some things that I learned: chalk pastel pros, they're super bright and vivid, they're easy to erase with like a tissue, and they blend super nicely. Cons, they're hard to control, easy to blur or smudge. Colored pencil, the pros were they were super easy to control. Some colors are really bright, some colors will actually erase with a pencil, or you can go back over them with black colored pencil to cover mistakes. Cons, some colors need like a white underneath to show them. So like down here I drew white before I drew yellow so that the yellow would actually show through. But some colors cannot erase. I tried crayons. Some of them were actually pretty vivid. They're nice to work with. They're a little bit dull, so you have to sharpen them if you want them to be a good edge. One of the nice things about oil pastels is that they blend really easy. They smudge together really nicely, but that word smudge has like a negative connotation too. So it's totally up to you what you want to work with. I'm actually going to work with all three. So what you're going to do is create a sketch of kind of planning out what you're going to do. These are not like rock solid. They don't have to be perfect looking. You can see mine are like literally really sketchy. But what you want to have on here is, let me move my face again. You want to have which principles you're going to use. These might not be the ones you end up going for, but they're what's going to be your inspiration. So I wanted to work with rhythm and movement and harmony. The elements I want to use to achieve those are color, shape, and texture. That's not minimally what I'm going to be using, but at least 2 of each, okay? So I labeled those on there. My theme is what I want to draw. So I have many things on here, so I will narrow it down, but just some ideas that came to my mind were mason jar. I do a lot of art with mason jars because Mason is my last name, and it's just kind of punny. Lightning bugs, string lights, holidays, cabins, northern lights. Those are all things that I thought would like pop out on the black paper. So I've done some thumbnail sketches. So a thumbnail sketch is a small size sketch. It doesn't have to be full page in any way. And you should have multiples of them. So I kind of drew in the little squares and then drew inside of them to represent what the paper size would be. And some that I didn't do that. It's up to you if you want to. You don't necessarily have to. But each sketch is just kind of a quick reference of maybe what layout I could do. What parts of my theme could I fit in? Do those things work together? Are they interesting enough? Do I like them or not? So the first one I drew was this one. I drew a branch coming out and a mason jar hanging with lightning bugs inside. Didn't like it at all. For one, my thing was too centered. I thought it was too simple. I just didn't really like the layout. But I had like northern lights in the background. I labeled everything that was going to be on there. The next one I drew was in my bottom left corner. So it was a mason jar with a little cabin, trees, and the northern lights. I actually like that layout. I've screen printed t-shirts that kind of look like that for my family. But I was like, I've been there, done that. So then I went to this next one where I did string lights in a tree with pine trees and like the moon. Still, I wasn't super keen on it. So next I drew this bigger style one in the corner where it's a big mason jar. I've got northern lights in the top. I've got a moon in the middle. I've got pine trees in the front. I really liked that design, but I wasn't sure if I liked the moon being in the center. So I drew that design again, and I did the mason jar with more of like mountains in front and pine trees, and then my moon off center, and then my northern lights would be in the background here. So I did label different areas for my own reference, but what I want you to do is label it so that I can understand what you're trying to convey, because from quick thumbnail sketches, it can sometimes be hard to see what you're doing. Like you might look at some of these without the word, you'd be like, what is that even? It doesn't have to be laid out like this either. You can lay it out however you want. This is just one example of how you could do it. The next thing I put together were some references to help me do my practice sketch, my main practice sketch. it's really important to draw from reference. Memory is super inaccurate. If I drew what I thought a mason jar would look like, the proportions would probably be off. If I drew what I thought the moon looked like, or I thought what the northern lights look like, even though I've never seen the northern lights in person, they'd be kajanky. So drawing from reference is really important. It's not cheating. It's how almost everyone does it. Back in the day, people would draw from real models or from real life. Now we draw from pictures. It's best to draw from your own pictures, but when you're learning, you use other people's references. And because you're Mod Podging different things together, you are creating your own art. So I generally used this moon and this moon as my inspiration. I used these northern lights as my inspiration, and I used kind of this mason jar. I did end up looking up a different mason jar, but these were just references of things that I wanted to look at to help me make my own. And again, the principles that we're going for are rhythm, movement, and harmony, and the elements are color, shape, and texture. My theme is mason jars, moon, northern lights, cabins, but for sure the images I wanted to use were mason jar and northern lights. So this ended up being my practice sketch from my thumbnails. I chose the one I liked the most, and I decided to try and practice it with the materials that I have. The purpose of this is to practice with the materials to see if it works with your sketch. Will it give you enough accuracy? Will it work for what you're going for? Is it detailed enough? Is it too messy? Is it not blendable enough? Does it work? So, get my face out of here again. I worked with colored pencil, crayon, and chalk pastel. I started with colored pencil just to outline everything, get some placement of what I wanted down. I worked with a reference for sure to look at the mason jar. I Googled mason jar drawing and found one that I liked. For the moon, I showed you which ones I used, and then for the northern lights as well. Things I like about this, I like the color of the moon. I like the colors in the northern lights. I like the reflections the little reflections here that I added of the mason jar because it looks contained then to me. Things I'd like to change or add. I think I could add brighter colors into my northern lights. Like sometimes there's like a really neon green in there. So I think I might like to add that, maybe even like a little bit more red purple than just like this lavendery purple. I'm also missing white chalk in my set. I didn't have any. So I would like to add some more like white down here in this area. And to make my stars, I used a colored pencil, but I like something that's more splattery effect. So a way you can create splatter is taking a little bit of your chalk, kind of grinding it down, adding water to it, and then using either a toothbrush or a paintbrush to splatter it on. And I would like to do that. And I think maybe next time I will do my jar bigger, or like to take up more space of the paper and have less negative space in the background, or figure out something to do in the background. Just so it's not so boring on the outside. I'm not sure. But what this practice is, it helps me decide what's going to work for me, what's not going to work for me, and how to control the materials. I have not used chalk pastels in a long time, so I had to kind of remember how to use them, how to blend with them, how to erase them with a tissue, and that kind of stuff. So this practice is not meant to be perfect, just a practice. Some things that I will demo for you before you start your final, not before you start your practice, but before you start your final, are how to draw things using a grid, so proportion. I'll show like a simplistic grid and then a more detailed one depending on what you're going to draw. I'll show you how to use each medium. So I'll demonstrate blending and erasing and how to utilize each medium. And then ways to maintain your black paper too. So things to keep in mind when you're planning and working. Draw something that interests you. This should be kind of your motivation is like draw something that you like. Take from your like everyday life or your hobbies or your interests or make it for someone else and draw something that you know they would like. Draw with the material you're most comfortable with. I'm actually not most comfortable with chalk pastel, but I really wanted to challenge myself a little bit. So if that's something you want to do, go for it. But practice with it before then. Don't expect perfection on the first try or the last try. No artist starts and finishes with like their first work. Like it takes a lot of practice and messing it up to figure out how to do it right. Practice before you start on your last black sheet of paper. So this is just practice. This is not the final yet. I want you to turn your practice in before you do a final, and I'll put a post out. I want to be able to see that in your slideshow here that you're going to make. So make sure you're maintaining at least like 1 or 2 black sheets of paper for that final. Don't give up something goes wrong. Let me know and I can help you work through it. So what is on your to-do list today and tomorrow for an assignment? You're going to make a PowerPoint. It can either be, where can I be? It can either be a PowerPoint or a Google Slides, but it's going to be for your project plan. You need pages for the following things. You need at least 1 page for references. It could be multiple pages. Or you can fit it all on 1 page. These pictures will help you draw your images. Drawing from memory doesn't work good. Or well, my English is great. Thumbnail sketches, you need a minimum of 4. You can draw them and then take a photograph with your phone. So I took a photo with my phone and then shared it to my Google Drive. Or you can take a picture with your like camera thing that's on your Chromebook. If you need help with that, let me know and I can kind of run you through the process. You need a practice of design layout. So like the practice that I did, not the thumbnails, but like I chose one of those thumbnails and then practiced it. So you should have at least 5 sheets of black paper. Make sure you're saving 2 for your final in case you mess up. You can use front and back for your practices. Again, this is just a practice to see if your material is going to work with what your design is. I don't expect it to be perfect, but I expect some time and effort to be put into it. This will be due Wednesday night. On Wednesday, we will have a live session. During that live session, I will do some demonstrating for you and then doing some answering of questions for things that you need to figure out. And then Thursday, we will start on to our final. So if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, this page is your to-do list. Yay!